Hello and Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays. So let me ask you, what holiday do you think of when you hear the word spider? Halloween, right? Well, what if I told you that every year many people around the world place spider-shaped ornaments on their trees and decorate them with webs? Now, my grandmother's family comes from a region a little north of the Black Sea, a place of cold winters and small villages called Ukraine, once part of the Russian Empire. They were known as the Black Sea Germans, or Germans from Russia. They were invited there by a princess that once lived in their land. Her name was Catherine, and she married a czar, also known as an emperor. And so she became the Empress of Russia. Now, when her husband passed away, she proved to be a very wise and capable, strong leader, and her reign was known as that empire's golden age. The empire was so vast and stretched so far that there were not enough people to farm and build upon it. Catherine remembered that the people of her homeland were hard workers, faithful, and dedicated, and they had a strong sense of community and family. So she sent word back to people she knew in Germany and issued a proclamation throughout that land that anyone who was able to come to Russia would be given land and the chance to make a new home for themselves and their families. Now, sometime later in that new land near the Black Sea, in a little cottage lived a family. A husband and wife and their 2 children, a girl and a boy. The husband passed away suddenly, leaving his wife and children behind with no one to bring in the upcoming harvest. Without the harvest, they had nothing to sell and no way to buy food. They were deeply saddened and afraid. They didn't have much hope for surviving through another winter. One day, the boy noticed a pine cone on the ground and kicked it inside their cottage on the dirt floor. After a while, he forgot about it and left it alone. That pine cone took root and a tree began to grow from it. Over time, the tree grew tall and was noticed by a spider who happened to live outside. With winter approaching, a beautiful big tree full of green needles in a very warm and cozy cottage looked like a splendid place for a spider to live. The spider decided to move inside and took up residence in the tree. The mother was sweeping the floor one day and noticed a spider. She was going to sweep it outside, but decided instead to show the spider mercy. It was cold outside after all, and a little spider would not take up much space. So she picked the spider up and placed it on a pine cone in the tree, and it happily scurried inside. The grateful spider wanted to do something in return for the kindness it was shown, but did not feel that it could contribute anything. It was, after all, only a spider. Soon it would be Christmas, and though the family had very little, they did have their very own Christmas tree, growing in the center of their home. It wasn't much, but it did give them hope. On Christmas Eve, the spider watched and listened as the little family sat around the tree and the mother told her children stories of the Christmases of her childhood. Stories about family and friends gathering together and sharing the spirit of the holidays. She told them about beautiful trees decorated with gifts and fruits and with candles made of wax which would make the tree flicker and shine with the hope of a new and better year to come. A new year filled with the promises of happiness and joy. Though the children loved the stories she shared, it was soon time to go to sleep, and a deep sadness came over them. It was Christmas Eve, and they had nothing to decorate their tree with. Their mother reminded them that Christmas was a time of miracles and snuggled up with them, and soon they were all fast asleep. The spider was so inspired by the stories and so grateful for the hospitality that the family had shown it, that it got an idea. If they had nothing to decorate the tree with, the spider would make decorations of its own. It was, after all, a master weaver, able to make strong webs and beautiful patterns. The spider worked through the night, spinning its webs, crisscrossing up and down, back and forth. Once it was finished, the spider climbed down from the tree to observe its handiwork. Just moments before, it was so excited about being able to help, but now it felt disappointed. The webs looked much different in its mind, and very different than they appeared up close. Up close they were shimmering with a silver glow that lit up like the sun reflecting off of the sea. But now, seeing them from a distance, they looked dull and gray. There was no sparkle or shine to them, and they started to droop down and wilt. Surely the family was going to be disappointed, maybe even angry at the spider for trying to help but only making things worse. The spider was so wrapped up in the web of its own sad thoughts that it didn't notice the sun rising. The family woke up and walked over to the tree. They saw that it was covered with webs and noticed the spider looking sad and tired on the dirt floor. The mother smiled as the children walked over and introduced themselves to the spider and thanked it for trying to lift their spirits. As they all sat down around the tree, they began singing carols. The spider looked up at the tree and for a moment thought that it saw a flash of gold breaking through the drab gray. And then it happened. A true Christmas miracle happened when, as the sun shone brightly through the cottage, the strands of webbing turned into the purest, most beautiful silver and gold. After Christmas was over, the widow and her children collected some of the strands and sold them at the market. And from that day on, they never had to worry about not having enough. The grateful spider, through whose webs a miracle was born, lived out the rest of its days in the tree as an honored member of the family, spinning its beautiful webs on the tree every Christmas. The story of that Christmas spider was shared with the children's children, and was shared and spread throughout the land, and many years later made its way to countries around the world. And from that day to this, many families decorate their tree with tinsel in honor of the kind spider and the miracles of the holiday season. And for those who remember the story, they place a special ornament in the shape of a spider and its web on their own Christmas trees and remember the miraculous story of the Christmas spider. And to all of you who are hearing this story, sometimes we're like the family who doesn't have very much hope but continues to find joy and peace. Sometimes we're like the pine cone, out of place, but we still find a way to plant our roots and grow and learn and become strong so that we can give others hope and happiness. And sometimes we're like the spider. We're kind and we're grateful, but we don't always feel like what we do makes a big difference. But it does. It always does. And sometimes we're like the spider webs, and we feel down and gloomy and sad until that bright light shines on us and we shimmer like gold and silver and bring beauty, wonder, and joy into a world that desperately needs it. Perhaps we're a little bit of all of them. Thank you for listening. Have a Merry Christmas and a wonderful and blessed New Year.